And as soon as I walked through the second door, I heard the voice of Jesus say,
"Here come the drums, ra-pa-pa-pum, ra-pum-pa-pum, here come the drums."
I really like drums. I think my time and trust placed in the NCT collective throughout the years has opened my heart to moments like these. I have a very similar feeling about this song that I do with Baggy Jeans by NCT U and now, of course, Gnarly by Cat's Eye. There's a slipstream I can grab onto in the deluge of chaotic production choices. This song is abrasive on purpose, and the members do such a good job of meeting the production where it's at, which, judging by the music video for this song, I thought we were in for Luna levels of poor line distribution, but it's actually not as bad as I was expecting. Blaze is more than a minute of the song, and the rest is divided among the other members who reach around 20 seconds of lines each. Not crazy abhorrent for Western pop group standards, but the non-Blaze members definitely take a backseat universally for this song. Ollie especially is really just given a few ad-libs. He has to awkwardly come to the front to deliver an ooh before another member's lines take off. This, in combination with the near solo song that is Sweet, paints a pretty fine picture or portrait of the kind of group they're aiming to be. Dear Alice is a group effort, but in ways that point to the strengths of one member at a time. Approaching this concept as a K-pop fan or coming from a K-pop context, it's tough for me to wrap my head around that, but I think there's absolutely ways that this can work. In fact, drums in terms of visual composition is almost exactly what I was hoping for out of this group. I love the cold color grading in the music video, and more than anything else, the spontaneity of the members themselves. The group scenes are not choreographed in an obvious way, which helps paint the picture that Dear Alice is a group of friends with their own artistic visions just showing up for each other. Ariana as the first single leaned into the classic, teenage heartthrob boy band dance sequences, which do have a time and place. I'm thinking about the intro sequence at the start of Ariana where the members are moving very rigidly in unison. I can find the space to defend these classic archetypal boyband styles, but drums' freeform and easygoing approach to performance is such a better fit for the members. I think in the current musical landscape where people are really clinging to authenticity, the presentation of drums somehow comes off as a lot more personable and knowable compared to Ariana, even despite how grating and experimental this song is setting out to be. Drums is very little, if not notes taken from the neoculture playbook, which is not a bad thing outright. I've endearingly referred to Dear Alice as NCT Wessex in the past, and drums definitely seeks to capitalize on the association this group has to SM entertainment groups. Drums and Baggy Jeans both function in similar ways, where the promise of a flourishing and dynamic instrumental is violently betrayed by a muffled chorus, and muffled is certainly an understatement. It's overall a ridiculous sound that is not for everyone. I am a loyal Baggy Jeans defender. I actually think it's one of NCT's best songs, and I'm being serious about that. I know some people associate Baggy Jeans with a downward trend in the SM A&R team's discernment, but I genuinely love the unseriousness of this song. There's something to a grating and silly track that goes all in on its own ridiculousness that I do have the time for personally. And also similar to Baggy Jeans, the narrative topic of drums is presented as more of a virtue rather than a concrete idea that ties itself to what is being discussed in the song. Why is everything gnarly? Why wear baggy jeans? Why are the drums coming? I can sort of give you ideas that lead up to an approximate answer to this question. Wearing baggy jeans was initially symbolically associated with counterculture, making your own moves in society, working with something that obviously doesn't fit you, right? In similar symbolic ways, drums are integral to almost every form of music. They provide foundation, a sense of safety and security for both the artist and the listener. Drums are responsible for setting the tempo of music, creating rhythmic structures that other instruments can follow. In the case of this song, what's drumming is the narrator's heartbeat. It's the thing that can be heard and heeded as a warning that our narrator is falling in love. We get lines like, very literally, heartbeat drumming, it's hard to miss, and she trying to pick up the pace even though it was a race. There's moments of surprising lyricism, like grind a beat like an alchemist, running this. Like you're like you're milling the herbs or capsules with a mortar and pestle. Okay. But then we get lines like, fee-fi-fo-fum, caffeine for a shot. I will say, the way the verses behave in the song makes it seem like it's a group of friends really just doing anything on a beat, which kind of gets betrayed or defeated by the fact that it's mainly Blaze in the verses, but all of it comes together to kind of work. I don't know if this is going to be a popular opinion, but to me, Drums is the strongest release in terms of bitterSWEETsummer being the official introduction to this group as realized artists. I think what influences my understanding of this the most is that Drums is rugged enough to help tear away at the corporate sheen that wrapped so tightly around the last two releases. It's not completely gone, but on first impression and given everything that we've been through, this is their best effort yet. Drums is a crazy song to release as part of a debut, I'm aware of that, but I can honestly respect the risk-taking. Many much more safer avenues could have been taken, yet Dear Alice treads down the road most controversial when it comes to the hip-hop adjacent neo-culture soundscapes. And with that in mind, returning a little bit to Sweet and Ariana. I feel about the same as I did in the videos that I made about those songs. If anything, I think I actually like Ariana more than I did initially. There is an awkward dynamic of there being two different mixes of this song, each of which emphasizes different production and vocal features that I really like. On the original one, or the first one that was released on streaming services, Reese is singing like he's been through two different divorces in the second pre-chorus. And then on the version released with the album, Reese's divorce court vocals are more pronounced in the final chorus, which incentivizes me to listen to that one.
She loves Ariana. She loves Ariana.
Honestly, potentially a good streaming tactic. I don't condone it. I really hope record labels don't make a habit out of releasing different mixes in addition to actual remixes, but I am also glad that we got both versions in the end. Yeah, I really like Ariana. I know it was kind of a mixed bag of reception for people. Of what I saw, there's problems with the genre and mixing of the song, along with just the universal problem of what feels authentic. I think Ariana could have passed as authentic in like a post-ironic way, but not enough effort was given to blur those lines. I've no doubt that they were really just going for the classic boy band aesthetic for debut, which is not inherently bad, it just comes across as impersonable. You know, gone are the days of NSYNC, and I can't think of the other group. What is the other group? NSYNC and, oh, Backstreet Boys. As much as we like to reminisce, and people tend to be very fond of how honestly manufactured these groups seemed in their roles as members of a boy band, I think we're losing sight of the idea that there's an unavoidable expectation that artists are involved with the production, or at the very least, the curating of the music they release. There are very few music styles that exempt this feature. K-pop once upon a time was one of those styles, but the parameters seem to be fast encroaching on the industry as no doubt a direct result of genuine Western pandering. Dear Alice is in many ways a product of that global-minded approach when it comes to K-pop, and so I think more efforts for member involvement and a focus on developing authentic works both musically and conceptually is the move going forward, or should be the move in my opinion. Especially when it comes to establishing a fan base, there needs to be a tangible, non-corporate reason that this music is being released. The AI-generated and typeface album covers on streaming services do so much to subtract from the members as artists. Generative AI in any capacity hinders the members and their artistic integrity. And with that in mind, Sweet is still a very good song despite everything. It's a pure pop track, easygoing, and doesn't overthink things, perfect for a debut project in the summertime. I don't really resent that it's a solo song. It not being announced as such was very awkward, but I digress. I made a whole video about the song and carry really the exact same sentiments today if you'd like to watch it to know about my understanding of its function in greater detail. Moving on to the rest of the album, the bitterSWEETsummer EP loosely revolves around the idea that our narrator is mulling over whether or not a relationship is actually over. These conflicting ideas across all of the tracks seem to come from our narrator's inability to speak his mind properly, articulate how he actually feels, which is something that happens to plague men specifically all over the world. Funnily enough, I made a pretend album for Dear Alice with the exact same idea conceptually about issues with communication. I still want to make a video about it one day because I think there's a lot more that can be done with this idea and concept, but bitterSWEETsummer covers a lot of nice groundwork. After Sweet, we get Save Us, the first of two slower, piano-focused ballads. It sets the narrative tone for the rest of the album. Literally, quote, "I've run out of ways to say I love you," which spills over very messily into the following tracks that see Dear Alice trying to make up for their communication issues in other ways, frantically avoiding simply just taking the time to find the words to express how he truly feels. And you know what? Cannot knock this too much because it hits very close to home. I am horrible at expressing myself in real life. I don't really know how to explain it. In a similar vein to this, we then move on past Ariana to Roses, a more upbeat, guitar-heavy confirmation that our narrator is simply just doing doing anything at this point to avoid expressing his own feelings. The concept of buying roses for someone is positioned accurately as trying to place a strip of tape over a crack in a dam. The symbolic sentiment of giving someone a gift, letting them know that you thought of them, is nice, but not enough to make up for the necessity that is communication in a relationship. Our narrator will, quote, drive 100 miles, an hour or more, searching every store so that he could buy the love interest roses, to, quote, buy a little time to right the wrongs. Even he knows that it's not enough. The best it could do is work as a kind of momentary stay of execution, which leads us to the final song, Butterflies. Everything did indeed fall apart. Quote, I used to think time was a friend. The narrator will miss the butterflies that came from this relationship, another indicator that he genuinely just can't explain the way he feels, even in the more introspective moments of this album. The relationship is over. There's nothing to save face about, yet he still doesn't know how to describe what it all felt like. It all just boils down to butterflies. The kind of maybe unintentional narrative through line to this album is that men are god-awful at communication, especially when it comes to expressing our feelings. 2 piano ballads on the same EP album that Drums is on is kind of insane, but I actually think it does work in the end. This album is a mess of conflicting moods, but surprisingly is pretty much in the territory of what I was expecting from this group. Ideally, an album from Dear Alice would be all of the members tackling a similar subject in their own unique ways, each song taking a different perspective on a general idea. The album concept visually is not cohesive enough for me to say with a vote of confidence that this was the plan all along. The theme might have just been literally a bittersweet end to a relationship, which caused all of the songs to point in a similar direction about communication in their own unique ways. In the end, it works in a very, 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 very roundabout way. Dear Alice has had a rough start in terms of promotion and overall group constitution, but the quick jump to this EP actually makes their future feel a lot more promising from here on out. There's a lot of room to improve, but this is certainly more than I was expecting by far. I think it is time to move away from the PixArt typeface album covers. There's a time and a place for them, but I really think Dear Alice needs a bit more visual, artistic texture to the music they're releasing. Certainly no generative AI from here on out. Please do not make me mad about this. Anyways, very happy with this EP album. All things considered, we are moving in a good direction. It's only up from here, I hope. My ranking of the songs right now, I think number 1 is still Ariana, number 2 is Drums, number 3 is Sweet, 4 is Roses, 5 is Butterflies. I think the melodies throughout the song are very, very nice, and so places it just above number 6, which is Save Us. Yeah, thank you for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think. How do you feel about the overall album and the experience that has been its rollout these past couple of months? What are your favorite songs on first impression and things like that? Yes, thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.